Good morning, friend.
Hey, good morning, Don. Well, if we were going to be constructive, I would say we would talk something like, the beginning of the plant applications world as we know it in the world of pulp and paper.
Oh, pulp and paper. Well, this could become a part of our. We're going to focus on different industries and have a couple of different discussions on different industries. We might as well start with pulp and paper. It's where Proficy grew up. It's where Proficy started. It's appropriate that we should start our industry discussions with pulp and paper.
Manufacturing process types would be batch. You're making a batch of material. You have a continuous process would be the second one. And the third one would be high-speed processing or high-speed discrete. So in the pulp and paper industry, you're mixing up batches of material. You're tracking raw materials that are coming into your site in a batch process of tracking. And so you want to know all that stuff that's coming in. And then you have this continuous process where you're continuously taking that material, for example, and turning it from like a liquid sludge on a conveyor belt into a nice formed material such as paper. So going from pulp to paper would be where that is. And that brings its own issues, right? Whereas with batch, you want to know, how did I do from this time to that time? I have this contained amount of material. And then this one is just, it's constantly going. So how are you going to sample that? How are you going to keep track of it? What are the process and quality variable correlations that are happening, alarming? That's a continuous part of it. And the third one being, after you've made these rolls of paper, you want to convert them. You want to turn them into smaller rolls of toilet paper or sheets that are going to be that money is going to be printed on, or anything else in between, right? I think those are the two extremes if we were to talk about paper, and different types of fabrics that are used. So that is that high-speed discrete where you're constantly either cutting into sheets or into smaller rolls, and you want to know more things like efficiency. How well are we doing at making those conversion processes and tracking it throughout the whole process? So that all came from the idea that every one of those was needed for pulp and paper. So it makes it a really nice structured database and a powerful database engine for a variety of industries that require those type of manufacturing processes.
I wonder what you think are the things that impact pulp and paper the most in terms of machine downtime hurts more in continuous processes, right? When large process lines stop, the cost is immediate and visible. And in those types of environments, unplanned downtime is huge, right? Output disrupts output and labor and energy use and all of that stuff. But there's also quality variability, right? And
Yep.
material energy losses, like those are the other losses that I think are hard on that industry. And every industry has their own worst case scenarios or whatever. So in addition to better uptime and fewer disruptive things, what do you think are the big KPIs for pulp and paper?
And it varies like any industry does. You can have companies that just pump out the same product every single day, and they're getting material that is pretty much the same. Maybe there's some variability, like you're saying, in the raw materials coming in. So whether it's by season or by vendor, you're looking for what those variabilities are so that you can anticipate how you're going to have to make modifications in your downstream processes based on the samples we're taking on our batches. What does that mean for how long we're drying things, what the tensions are, so we don't end up having a break? That's where you get those big downtimes, right? So the pulp and paper industry is all about, how do you move efficiently? How do you continue to pump out the same product without having these large downtimes from the web of material actually breaking? And then also looking for those defects in the product as well as the product is being made. How do you sample that downstream?
I would
And
think
so
improved consistency.
improved consistency, yeah, and just a constant process. And I think that would be true amongst all of them, but to different degrees, because just like any industry, you can also have the companies, and we work with them that need to be more agile. They're making the higher end products, either for luxury items, book covers, consumer packaging, right? As we've had in previous podcasts, where the challenges are a little bit different, and it's about how do you go from one work order to another quickly? How do you stay agile and we could talk about the idea of overages, where you're trying to make these smaller runs and customer doesn't want any more than that. So on some level, it becomes a little bit of a struggle with scheduling. And it's really about having that real-time visibility so that you can have your office team really connected to what's happening on the plant floor. But it all starts with the same thing. How do you have that powerful database engine that's recording all that information? So depending on if you're focusing more on your process and quality data at every one of those steps, it's all going into that same database. And I still, to this day, there's not any other solution that I've run into that is able to put that all into one database and is just open for people to pull out their own reports, whether it's out of the box or built.
Yeah. Our salespeople probably find themselves in a lot of OEE conversations, because OEE is like the table stakes for a lot of MES deployments in different industries. But pulp and paper isn't really one of those. It's better visibility into process performance, right? Improving the quality consistency in process, right? And so the focuses are a little different for the pulp and paper industry than some of other customers, the industries our other customers are in.
That's true. I mean, eventually they do want to see OEE. You have the wet end and the dry end, right? And on the wet end, it's all about the formation of the material, taking continuous samples, making sure the quality is there, and getting a consistent product. And usually for them, that comes first, to your point. Eventually, everybody likes to do things a little bit more efficient. And whether it's process quality correlations on that side, obviously, if you're making good product coming out, then you don't have to waste time making bad product, which is where OEE comes in. But then one way or another, usually people are converting the material one way or another on the packaging side. And there's a correlation there too. We'll see this in the food industry too. How well you're making the product on the upstream side is directly correlated to how well the downstream equipment is going to be able to perform. And a lot of times when you have OEE issues where there's kickoffs or scrap happening at your converting side, whether you're making paper or food, those scrap issues aren't because the filler or the cutter wasn't doing its job. It's because you were discovering at that level the issues that you were having upstream and attributing that upstream, right? So eventually you get that OEE play in there one way or another, because it's all connected between where you're making the product and where you're packaging it or converting it. So what that all brings me to say is that with plant applications, it's not just about handling those three different types of manufacturing, but then it's being able to, on the other side, apply the three different disciplines of MES, which is OEE, like you're saying, efficiency. And there are some tools out there that's all they do. And they've got a couple of flashy screens, and they might even focused on a sub-industry. But when you want to go deeper than that and having that same software solution that gets installed, the ability to collect all your quality data, to correlate that to the process data, and correlating it to your downtime. And I've seen some MESs out there that don't track some elemental things, like they're not even tracking waste at a level that can be quantified and reported on. I say all that to say that Plant Applications has all of that in there with your process and quality data. And then to continue on after talking about efficiency and the quality and a really robust recipe management system that's tracking all of your specifications. We can go further into that and why that's important. There's genealogy and looking at your production process now and seeing where are we at? Are we on schedule? Are we falling behind? And then later on, when you have recalls or curiosities of if your process and quality data is matching up between both sides, you have that genealogy component in there as well. So on one side, we're talking about the type of manufacturing companies out there, process, high speed, and all the different ways that we talked about there. And then in addition, the installation itself brings this all together into one database to handle all of these different disciplines of what people care about on the manufacturing floor.
Again, that's Volatics Proficy Smart Factory, and it includes the things like Historian, Plant Applications, and Operations Hub, and it came from this industry. And Rain Engineering helps Volatic Proficy users improve visibility and standardized process information and connect to plant floor data to make better decisions, right? And it's true in paper mills, and it's true in all the industries that we're involved with. It's better plant floor visibility and performance monitoring. It's faster issue identification and more consistent operator response. Screens that are focused on helping an operator respond to a specific scenario, a specific situation. More reliable production information, making life easier for supervisors and planners. You talked a little bit about planning, right? Understanding what was I supposed to do today and what had actually happened and who was involved. And so that stronger foundation for quality and compliance and continuous improvement, all wrapped up into Volatics Proficy Smart Factory. Great in the pulp and paper industry.
One of the things that is the constant tug of war is between MES and ERP. And I see a lot in the paper industry that, and this happens in other industries as well. There's this idea that you have your ERP, let's bring that down to the plant floor. And what that means is usually having terminals there and people manually entering information like quality. And if that's all you needed was that, give me the quality information of the roll, I'm just, sneaking into the manufacturing floor to get some information and pulling it out. That's where the ERP really provides some value. And the reason why I'm saying that is many places we go in, it starts off with that philosophy and then it organizes and evolves into the idea that, but what if we had more real-time visibility to the plant floor? And that's where the MES really comes in, is we've kind of retrofitted in there and said, what if we take every time a roll is made, or every time you made a batch of material, every 15 minutes on the continuous, from pulp to paper, collect that information from the machines. And that's where an MES is going to provide the value. And when we talk about Smart Factory, it is that plant applications engine, and it is, in addition to the visualization on Operations Hub, the historian that's collecting that one version of the truth. And it's just a data collecting engine, right? That is what it's there to do. And it's got forwarding capabilities and buffering if it ever needs it, store and forward. And so that is collecting all the information, then putting it into the structured database of every time you made the roll. So now you're bringing in that process data to correlate with the quality data, whether or not you're just adding it to the MES directly, or if you're putting it into your ERP and then finding a way to connect all that data together. But why not just have it as your real-time information system done? You were talking about it with like scheduling, seeing how things are going in the moment, and being able to react with alarms, with sometimes even some predictive alarms called SPC alarms, and being able to record all the information so you have that visibility. And so that was just a conversation about what does it mean, where does the ERP really provide value, and where is the MES just going to be focused on giving you that real-time capability where all your inventory is and how your orders are handling in the moment.
Yeah. So we've been talking about the pulp and paper industry. We've been talking about the fit for Volatic Proficy Smart Factory to get better uptime and fewer disruptive production interruptions, improved consistency and quality, reduced waste and rework, better visibility into process performance, and a more stable output and better operational decision-making. If you want to talk deeper about pulp and paper with the Rain team, I think you can visit raineng.com, click on the link to schedule a consultation with us. We'll be happy to answer any questions that you have or help you work through things. If you feel like you're not getting what you want from your Proficy system, if it's not working as hard as the line is, talk with us about improving the performance of your system, or improving the ways that changing the ways that you use it to fit more of your manufacturing process. So if you like what we've talked about today, subscribe, see what other content we have. We have more industry stuff coming. If you want to reach out to us, I already said, rainyng.com, schedule a time. You can call Chris's cell phone at 555. No, just kidding. So anyway, thanks for being here today, Chris.
Comments too. I mean, we'd love to see the comments